Hi, my name is Mike, owner of Reno Propulsion Labs, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about your your PCB, your main board inside your Onewheel. So I'll bring you in here a little bit closer to show you what's going on. Basically, there's an issue that's going on with a lot of the new GTs and the Pints, where some of these screws are coming loose, which happens just from normal riding, just normal wear on the board, and they'll rattle around in here and start shorting out pieces. I'll show you a couple examples of that as well, and then I'll show you how to fix it. All right, so I brought you guys in for a little closer view here. The screws I'm talking about are these guys right here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those screws. And I have seen on a few boards now, after some rough riding, hitting some tough terrain, or just general wear and tear, these screws will back out of their little slots and they'll start to rattle around in the board. And the problem with that is when your board's on, if they touch any of these connectors or connect anything together that shouldn't be connected together, it can cause a short, which can severely damage your board. All right, so I'm gonna show you some of the tools that you're gonna need here to fix this. I like to go with the FloatLife Onewheel GT toolkit. That comes with a 25 IP, which is this guy right here. And it comes with a Torx 20, the security Torx with a hole in it. You'll need one of those as well. Personally, I use one of these little screwdrivers. You should probably use a hand-driven tool or something along those lines, especially if you're new at doing this. This is a lot quicker and it doesn't have too much torque, so it won't over-tighten everything. I will, when I go in to actually turn the screws that are inside the motherboard, I'll use a hand screwdriver because they're just a lot more, you get a lot more control over them. And one thing to note is when the screws are going into the board itself, on the other side is plastic. So you can't use regular Loctite. I would suggest Loctite 425. You can find it on Amazon, go to your local hardware store. They may or may not have them in stock. I can't even find regular Loctite at my store right now, so who knows? But that's what you're gonna need along with a Phillips head screwdriver. All right, so we're gonna start with the disassembly. I'm gonna start with a Torx 25. 25. This is actually a regular 25. The Onewheel kit comes with the 25 IP, which is a better option. However, I've removed these a few times with the regular Torx, and they haven't stripped out yet. So keep in mind, you may have a fender, you may have a fender delete or something else on here. This customer has got printed fenders, so we are going to just go ahead and remove the front. However, you'll also need to remove these 2 screws over here in the back. While we're here, we're going to go ahead and pull off the 2 rear screws for your foot pad. And then we're going to flip the board over and hit the other side. All right, before I move on, it's important to have some type of tray or something like that to keep all your tools in, or all your screws, your hardware in while you're working on it so you don't lose anything. I like these. They're $2 from Harbor Freight. They're magnetic, but they don't really work too well on these bolts because there's not enough ferrous metal in them. So let's flip the board over, and then we're going to have 6 screws to remove on this side. I believe this board has some aftermarket screws in there. On your board, they should all be the 25. So we'll remove one on the side here, one on the opposite side, and then we'll remove the 2 that are all the way at the front. These guys can be kind of a pain to get out. Sometimes you can kind of angle your driver and pull them out. Doesn't want to do it this time, so easy way to do it is just to flip the board back over, make sure that you're covering those 2 holes, and the screws will pop right out of the bottom. And then of course you want to flip the board back over and pull the fender. The fender's easy, just a little tug, and it should come right off. Now, the one other tool that I kind of mentioned, or that I had in the frame earlier but forgot to mention, you don't necessarily need this guy. This is the little tool that helps you remove the lock nut for the foot pad. You can use it. You don't necessarily need to. You can usually do them with your fingers, or if you've got some needle nose pliers, you can do that as well. So we'll go ahead and get that removed. And then last, I'll need to pull these last two screws up here on the front. So on this, they're like an H3 size, but on yours they should be the same as all the rest, the 25s. So we'll remove that screw, this last one, and that will let the foot pad come off, and then it can just sit off to the side. So then what you'll want to do is flip the board back over for the last time. And you'll want to go through and remove all these screws around here. Keep in mind, this will void your warranty. Now, in Future Motion's defense, I have seen them honor warranties after these screws have been removed, especially in this situation. I actually sent in a board not too long ago to them, and they went ahead and replaced the whole main board after it got shorted out by one of these screws. But keep in mind, you will be voiding your warranty once you remove this. Again, this is using the 20 IP security bit. All right, and here's the point of no return. Oh, never mind, we're still missing one. Now we're at the point of no return. This guy lifts up and off. Now, one thing to note with this gasket's very important. It helps to waterproof the board. The downside to this gasket is that it's very difficult to get back in. It's a little bigger than it should be. The Float Life makes a great replacement gasket. I believe it's $25 on their website. You can link to it in the description below. I would suggest getting that. It'll save you a lot of headache. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to prop up the board so you can see what I'm doing a little bit better, and then we'll attack those screws. All right, so we've got our board propped up. We're going to want to remove the screws. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove them one at a time. I'm going to put just a drop of the Loctite on there, and then we'll go ahead and put them back in. Remember, you're screwing into plastic, so when you're screwing these out and screwing them back in, it's important to not over tighten them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold the screw like that and add just a little drop of thread locker. And it's going to go right back in the hole, just finger tight. And we're going to go ahead and repeat that for all the screws. Remember, right now your board should be totally powered off and there shouldn't be any power going to this board. But make sure to keep your screwdriver away from it so you're not damaging the board inadvertently. All right, it's easy as that. So now we've fixed our problem. Go ahead and seal this guy back up. It should be noted too, this board has a Sure Start Pro on it. Again, shout out to the Float Life. And I just want to do a quick plug for Float Life in the video. Great products, great support. They're based just out of town for us in Sacramento. We're located up in Reno. And if you want to buy anything off the Float Life store, you can get 5% off of your order by entering code Onewheel at checkout. So now that everything's back, we're going to go ahead and put this guy back together. So this guy here, it looks like the owner has cut it, so it should be a little bit easier to get on. Sometimes, especially if you're going to be putting silicone or some type of sealant like that to waterproof your board, some people will trim these down a little bit. Make sure there's a little bit of overlap if you're going to do that. I suggest getting the Float Life, the Float Life gasket for it, because they're high quality. I believe they're made in the United States. I know they're shipped out of the United States. It's a local company, and they do amazing things for the Onewheel community. So let me just go ahead and line that thing up as best as we can. And then we're just going to reassemble. So we're going to take our little warranty voider. I'm going to plop that down into place there. Make sure that your gasket is seated. And I'm going to grab my tools, or my hardware, and I'm just going to go through and reinstall each one of them. Again, if you notice these guys, from the factory, these have blue Loctite on them. If you own a Onewheel, it's always good to have spare parts. Blue Loctite is an important one because almost all these screws have blue Loctite on them. And if you don't see some blue Loctite on them, it's not a bad idea to go ahead and add it. Unless it's backing up into plastic, in which case you want to use something like that 425. Now it should be noted also that a lot of people will use silicone. They'll put just a little dab of silicone over the top of each one of these screws. That works well too. I prefer the 425 just because I know that I'm going to get a good solid seal with it. It's basically like putting a dab of glue on the end of your screw so it doesn't back out. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull my little prop box out of here, like so, and we're gonna go ahead and flip the board over. And put everything back together the way we found it. But you know what? And this is why I always keep a little bowl here with all my screws. So one thing you'll notice is these screws are silver, all the other ones aren't. And if you miss one, you can screw it in like that. All right, so we've got all our screws back in our main box. We're gonna flip the board over like so. Set it down gently because I'm on a glass table. And we're gonna go ahead and reinstall our front foot pad, or at least part of our front foot pad. Got a little ahead of myself there. Let's go ahead and pop the right bit on there. Again, these are going to be your 25s. All right, so next you're going to want to take your front foot pad, your little connector cable here, you're going to want to reinstall it. Be very careful when you do this. The pins in there are tiny, and if you mess up the pin to the foot pad, that's not too expensive of a gaff. But if you mess up the pins on the board itself, then you're looking at sending your main board in somewhere to get it fixed, or replacing the main board, which is about a $300 endeavor. So you want to just get it in there, make sure it's nice and tight, but don't over tighten it. And then you're going to take your bumper, slide it back into place, and then again using your 25 bit, you're going to want to start by putting the longer of the screws in the front, and then these shorter guys are going to go here towards the back. And then almost done. Flip it over once more. You're going to want to install these guys. These are the same length as those screws that went in the front of your bumper. And reinstall your either your fender delete, your fender, or whatever system you've got on the front of your board. All right, once your front fender's back on, power it on, make sure everything's still working, and you're good to go. All right, guys, so it's that easy. All you have to do is pop that front fender, or the front, your fender off, your front foot pad, your front bumper, pull that cover off, remove the gasket, go back through, put a little drop of thread locker on each one of those. Again, make sure that you're using the Loctite, the 425. You're not using red or blue Loctite, definitely not red Loctite, because that can go through and can really eat up your plastic underneath. Again, make sure you're not over tightening them, because if you strip those out, then you're really going to have a bad time. So right now, if you're local to the Reno area, if you bring your board into my shop and you want me to take care of that problem for you, just let me know. Right now I'm doing them free of charge. It takes about 20 minutes or so. You can stand by while we get it done. You can message me either here, you can give me a call. My phone number is 209-915-5150, or you can shoot me an email at renopropulsionlabs.com. We're also on Facebook and TikTok at Reno Propulsion Labs. Again, hopefully this is something that Onewheel takes a look at and they start to fix on newer models. At this point, we haven't seen that happen. So if you don't want to have a cutout, you don't want to end up in a situation where you're riding down the road and the board shorts out, then, you know, make sure to get some Loctite in there and get those things tightened back up. One way to check your board to see if it has this issue is you can pick it up and just kind of rotate it around like this. If there's an issue, if there's one of those screws that's backed up, usually you'll hear it rattling around in there. Sometimes it can get wedged into something and it won't rattle around. That's why it's always best to open it up and take a look yourself, but usually you can hear it. So again, thank you guys for watching the video. If you need anything done, if you need any parts for your board, need anything installed, need a new tire, want your foot pad or your those screws tightened down, hit me up. Thanks for watching.